Okay, so by now you should have the drawings derived from, the 2D drawings derived from your model. You should have a floor plan section and elevation perspective as well. Like I said earlier, the perspective, depending on how close you were, how close the target was to the camera, it will give you a big image or a small image. That aside, what we have to do is have a floor plan section and a couple elevation, and that'll do for this part of the exercise. Okay. So in previous instructions, we've shown you how to scale a drawing down. So like to scale it into a piece of paper. So if you can go ahead and make a 11 by or 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, but we'll say 11 by 8.5. So at 11, 8.5 inches. So no foot mark, and that is there. So what we did earlier was to scale all this stuff down to fit onto this. Now that's good practice for certain drawings, bad practice for others, okay? So what that means, remember how we did this, we looked up this architectural scale factors, and we have the 1/8 inch, we have 96 scale factor, and we have a viewport scale. Now, all those three mean something, okay? So the viewport scale is what we derive, shrinking the image down to fit onto the 8.5. That actually comes in a little bit, it makes a little more sense when we start using AutoCAD, and we're never going to scale anything down in AutoCAD. We're going to keep everything 1-to-1, the buildings 1-to-1, and then whatever you print or whatever area that you're going to print is going to go into this viewport scale. That will explain when we get to the AutoCAD module. The scale factor basically is what the inverse of this thing, and it's very similar. The drawing scale, however, is, if you look at the camera, it's this weird triangle that we made you buy, or weird ruler that we made you buy with all these different weird sort of numbers and in whole numbers and in fractions and such. We usually teach you how to use this first week of school in Design 1, but since we haven't made a physical model, maybe this part of this exercise could be on learning how to use a scale, because when we print this out, that's when this apparatus is going to make sense. Okay, so what we're going to do is to scale, instead of scaling down the drawing, we're going to scale up the paper. So we could type in scale, and the scale factor, we're not going to go from point to point and stuff like that. We're just going to use a scale factor, and scale factor for 1/8 inch, if we recall, is 96, right? So we're going to type in a scale factor of 96. Oops, come on. 96. And that gives us a rectangle that used to be our piece of 8.5 by 11 paper. And with that, our building would, our 1-to-1 scale building would fit. The two-dimensional images of 1-to-1 building would fit, right? So that's what we want to do first, okay? Let me make another 8.5 by 11, talking about scale factor. Oops. So rectangle from there at 11, 8.5. So the floor plan, I'm going to print it at a 1/4 inch scale. This one was an 1/8 inch scale paper, and this one for the floor plan, I'm going to make it into a 1/4 inch scale. And the 1/4 inch scale, the scale factor for that was 1/4 inch, 48, right? So now we could scale, type in scale, select the object, scale one, select 1 point, and then the other corner we don't want. We'll just scale it, type in a scale factor of 48. Oops, I screwed that up, sorry. Scale. press that. Scale factor is 48. Just type it in, and we have this. Now, this paper, or this border that we made, is basically half the size of the last that we made. So we could fit 4 of these into the last one that we made, correct? If you think about it, if you think about it, 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/8, 1/4. Basically, that's a 50% difference, right? Or it's double the size. So it makes sense that if we're printing at a 1/4 inch scale, the paper would look smaller compared to the image. Whereas if we're printing at 1/8 inch, it might fit onto this sheet. So you can kind of guess what size of paper everything is going to fit onto by just, you know, whatever paper that you have. I usually do this anyway, that before I know how to fit onto a piece of drawing board and stuff, I kind of guess what size it'll fit or what scale would be appropriate. Okay, so if I say, for instance, if I use a scale factor of, let's see, if I use a scale factor of 16, because we used 16th before, 192, right? So 192, if I do this at 11, 8.5, I should just copy a bunch of this. Scale, so like that, and then 192 as a scale factor. There it is. So if that is my piece of paper, all of these drawings would look rather small on the sheet, right? But thinking about it the other way, if I have a paper that is that big, I should be able to fit maybe all of these drawing onto one piece of paper, right? So that's another way of thinking about it. What size of paper do you need to fit all of the drawings that you need? So for our quick exercise, please make that 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and then make one that is 1/8 of an inch, make one at a scale factor of 1/4 inch. Okay? Break up the videos there.